I bring good financial news, despite what that last caller was saying. I attended and wrote about last week the 9th annual Outlook on the economy. That was a presentation given by Jason Bram, who's a research officer in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's Regional Analysis Function. That's a really long title. But essentially in short, what that means is they look at the regional economy and they look at the factors of the regional economy. And I'm gonna tell you a couple of findings of what we reported and what he spoke about. First of all, he talked about both the national picture and the regional picture, and here's largely what he had to say. He said that real GDP growth has moderated over the past year. So we're still in a growing economy, but the growth is slowing down. Job growth, as I just said, also has slowed somewhat, but remains robust. The labor market, notably, especially in our region, is tight, meaning that employers say that they cannot find qualified people. The canary in the coal mine is manufacturing. Manufacturing is definitely slowing, but core inflation has been steady. Mm-hmm. Did you want to say something?
No. Go ahead.
Now, GDP is growing about 2 to 3%, and unemployment is at 3.5%, which is the lowest it's been since the 1960s. So we're still seeing an economy that that feels robust, that feels healthy. In other words, nobody can really foresee recession just yet. But again, the manufacturing sector is definitely, and the service sector are both showing a subdued growth. Now, he did a breakout presentation on something that I found really fascinating, and so we covered it and we wrote about it. Let me try to explain it, because it's a little bit complicated, but if you go to rcbizjournal.com and you read the story, you'll understand it. So they conducted a study along several counties on the New York and Pennsylvania border, what they call the tier region, lower tier region. So there were several counties along New York and several counties along New Jersey that share a border. And what they were looking for in their study was an impact on whether minimum wage had decreased the number of jobs on the New York side, because while in Pennsylvania the minimum wage still remains at $7.25 an hour, New York's, as we know, has climbed up to $15 an hour. And they looked at two sectors, retail, leisure, and hospitality. I guess that's one. From 2010 to 2018, this was across 10 counties. And what they found was that while earnings grew faster on the New York side, which makes sense because the wage is higher, that the number of jobs in New York was not impacted. In other words, just because the wages are higher, employers were not hiring fewer people, were not laying off more people. So essentially, there was no job loss. In other words, the New York side did not bleed to the Pennsylvania side through any kind of. People didn't lose their jobs in New York and then go over to Pennsylvania for the same kinds of work, because employers didn't pare down their employment just because of the higher minimum wage. So that is a small study, but it's an interesting one. And, the minimum wage is a very contentious issue here amongst some in New York. And this is a study. I mean, it still remains to be seen how it plays out over time. But I do think that because they did look at a long period of time, 8 years, and the minimum wage in New York has been climbing since 2013. I think there's some interesting data here to be looked at and to be thought about, really. So.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I would say, take a look at that. If you're an employer, if you're in the service or hospitality sector, that might be interesting. I mean, we don't really have a comparable situation here because our borders are not, Pennsylvania up here. We border economies that are just as pretty much expensive as our own. In other news, if you've been following Rockland County Business Journal this week, we learned of yet another retailer, Vera Bradley, closing its doors this past weekend at the shops of Nanuet. And
what is that all about? I never heard of that before. Zero Gravity.
Oh, Vera Bradley.
Vera?
Yeah, it's a kind of an iconic store for. They make these quilted bags with like paisley designs. She's been around a long time, and this store closed, but they're still keeping their store open in New Jersey and in Woodbury Common, the factory outlet store. So. This is that kind of store where it has a specific following, and I think people are actually sad to see this go because some of the retail we see is it looks like everything else. It's not individualistic, but Vera Bradley kind of cornered a market that nobody else had. So I think that's worrying to see that retailer go. And I think I guess it was last week too. We also reported on Papyrus. That's the specialty stationery store that's been around for quite a long time.
Say the name of it again.
Papyrus, Papyrus.
Catris?
Papyrus with a P.
Oh, Patris. Okay.
Papyrus, yeah. So they've been around a good long time too, and but they are closing all of their stores.
Where are they located? Where are they located in Rockland?
Well, in the Palisades Center. So, yet another blow to the Palisades Center. Yeah. So last week we talked about a gaming company coming, and I'm just going to tease something. Stay tuned this week for what appears to be a new lease signing at the mall, which will surprise people.
At the Palisades Center.
At the Palisades Center, but I'm not going to say what.
All right.
Because I want people to come to rcbizjournal.com and take a look.
There you go. Good idea. By the way, the first one that you talked about, the gravity thing. Now that they're in the shops.
Yeah, Vera Bradley was at the shops of Nanuet.
Yeah.
Shops at Nanuet, and it's just another store that's closing. I mean, I think that the shops of Nanuet is really been hurt.
Look, it's funny because I said at the beginning I didn't understand the concept being here in Rockland. I'm wrong about a lot of things. That thing was completely put together and operational in early 2012. Am I right? Because I think we were blown out of the mall in 2011. The radio station.
Yeah. I mean, I think a nice outdoor mall is a great concept. I think it's so much more pleasant than the commotion and cacophony of an indoor mall. I like an outdoor mall that's carefully curated.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's that they picked the wrong county or that they are just swept up in this retail reset. And because they have limited their selection to these big boxes and these chains, and maybe perhaps don't have enough information, maybe that's their the curse. I'm not sure. They know, like everybody else knows, that it's going to be all about, repositioning their real estate.
Well, they really emphasized when they were being built high. I remember talking to Alex Gromack when he was Clarkstown supervisor. High end, upscale. That's all I heard. I hate that word, upscale. I'm downscale.
I mean, it's a kind of a worn out word, and it doesn't even mean anything. But it's every mall developer is having the same conversation. Is it a hotel? Is it a convention center? Will there be housing? Will there be entertainment? I mean, they're all having the same, whether they're, 2 million square feet like the Palisades, or whether it's a more selective 30 or so or 40 or so retailers, in one spot. So there's a lot of pressure because we're a small county and we have two major entities side by pretty much.
Well, anyway, it's RC Biz Journal. I can't wait to hear what's going to.
Okay, RC Biz Journal.
RCBizJournal.com. Tina, thanks a lot.